friends can suck sometimes. Whoa. Taylor, isn't that a little aggressive? You don't really think that, do you? Let me take you back. The year was 2005, and I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna prove to you that your friends can suck sometimes. I was a 5th grader in Mrs. Wright's class, and it was a typical Tuesday morning. I woke up, Mom made some Eggos. I devoured the Eggos while obviously watching Cribs on MTV.
Welcome to the O'Neill Castle.
I hopped on my all-white, sick BMX bike. I had pegs in the back, you already know. I rode to school, got to school, locked my bike up. I walked into the gates. I said,
"What up?"
to my 5th grade girlfriend. I probably said something along the lines of like,
"Yo, what's good, baby?"
I gave her a nice high five, and then I made my way to the courtyard. Playing it cool, I proceeded to play football with the boys in the field because, you get this, before school hours are for the boys. Bell rang, we walked into class, school started, nothing crazy. I got to class. I settled into my seat, and then it happened. My friend, well, at least I thought he was my friend. Kevin walked into the class. Kevin was holding a stack of white envelopes with names on them. I quickly looked around the room, and yeah, I could tell everyone took notice of these envelopes. And we all knew what they meant. It was simple math, really. Kevin, plus his birthday coming up, equals invites. These envelopes were invitations to his party. As I'm beginning to process this information, I, along with everyone else, start to count the number of invites in his hand. I quickly realized that the number of invites in his hand did not equal the number of bodies in the room. Not even close. This was no longer just an invitation. This became a sick, twisted social experiment to see 5th graders crumble under the pressure of the social hierarchy and landscape. Survival of the fittest. Or in this case, the most popular. I wasn't worried though. I mean, come on. Me and my boy Kev, we were homies. There was absolutely no way I wasn't getting one of those. Kevin started to hand out the invitations. Weston got one, Nick got one. A bead of sweat dropped on my forehead. Cody got one, Steven got one. My hands started to shake. Adam got one. Even the weird kid Brian got one. At this point, I'm freaking out. One by one, these invites are getting passed out, and your boy got passed up. No invite. My life was over. How could I not get an invite? How could he not ask me to come to his party? This was betrayal of the highest degree. I got played. I rest my case. As you can see, friends can suck sometimes. Okay, I get it. I'm being a little dramatic. Kevin could have done something much worse to me, like kick my puppy off a bridge or something.
Excuse me. Excuse me. What are you doing?
That's how I roll.
But here's what I learned as a 5th grader in this moment. Friendships are incredibly complicated. One moment you feel like your friendships are incredible. They are my day ones. They are my ride or dies. Those are my dogs. Nothing, I mean nothing, will ever break us apart. We are gonna be friends forever. But then in the next moment, well, you have a Kevin moment, and now you start to question every friendship in your life. Can I be honest with you? When it comes to my friendships, I'm really good at evaluating how good of a job others are being a friend. To me, I'm good at playing the role of teacher and handing out letter grades to my friends based off of how well they treated me. I'm good at pointing out all the ways my friends are sucking at being friends. To me, I'm good at calling out my friends' faults and coaching them how to be a better friend. Yeah, you guessed it. To me. You see the problem here? What I've done is I've made my friendships, well, all of them are about me. and they're not actually about others. You know what I'm not good at? Checking myself and evaluating if I'm a good friend to them. And if I were to guess, yeah, you're not good at that either. Here's what I want to do. We are going to start a brand new series called How to Friendship. Over the next couple weeks, I want to take a look at some stories in the Bible and see how we can be better friends to others. The Bible has a lot to say about what it looks like to be a Christ-centered friend, and I want to walk alongside of you guys to discover what it means to look like Jesus as we pursue being a friend to others. Here's my one rule. Please do not miss this. You do not get to use this series as a weapon and use it against your friends. I know you. There will be moments in this series where you're going to want to elbow your friend sitting next to you and be like, hey, are you listening? I think they're talking about you. I think you need to work on that. And no, this series is for you. Challenge yourself to take these things personally so that you can be a friend that looks like Jesus. Here's what's at stake. If we can't reflect what it means to be a Christ-centered friend, we can't reflect what it means to be Christ. While we need friends that push us closer to Jesus, we need to be a friend that pushes others towards Jesus too. Even if you're here today and you don't believe in Jesus, the things we're going to talk about the next couple weeks, it sets you up to be a friend that others deserve. So listen, this still applies to you. Today, we're gonna be looking at the book of Ruth. Now, if you haven't read the story of Ruth, it's epic, y'all. Like, I want to focus on this first part of the story, but you have to go read the rest on your own. So this week, if you haven't already, go dive into that story. Now, the story starts out by introducing us to this woman named Naomi. She had a husband named Elimelech and two sons named Mahlon and Chilion. Where they lived, there was this terrible famine and there was a shortage of food. And unfortunately, because of this, Naomi's husband dies. Shortly after he dies, her two sons get married to a woman named Orpah and Ruth. Unfortunately, 10 years after her sons get married, well, they die too. Now, let's pause the story really quick. Can you imagine being Naomi? In the span of 10 years, you not only lose your husband, but you lost your two sons. Talk about the worst decade of your life. I can only imagine the heartache that she's going through. Not only does she have to deal with this sense of pain and loss, but I would imagine she is feeling incredibly alone. Her support system is completely gone. Well, in a turn of events, God shows up and gives some relief and provides food through this famine. Naomi and her two daughter-in-laws, Orpah and Ruth, they travel back to Naomi's homeland in Judah to get some food. Once back in Judah, after receiving the food they set out for, Naomi instructs Orpah and Ruth to go back to their homes, which would mean Naomi would be all alone. Ruth 1:8-9 says this, "Then Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, 'Go back, each of you to your mother's homeland. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband.' Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept out loud." The first daughter, Orpah, she hears this, and what does she do? She does what is instructed, and she goes back home. But Ruth does the unthinkable. And this is where the story gets good. In verse 14, it says, "Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her." It goes on in verse 16, "But Ruth replied, 'Don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. This is insane. Ruth, against all odds, digs her heels in and says, I'm staying. I am not going anywhere. I am not leaving you, Naomi. By staying with Naomi, Ruth was placing herself in a very risky situation. Staying meant that she would remain away from home, which, let's be real, home would provide her a level of comfort, and she probably needed that in this moment when she just lost her husband. And on top of that, staying meant that her odds of being a widow and remaining single increased dramatically. In that day, if you were a widow, you had very limited ways of supporting yourself financially. Ruth was signing herself up for this life because she didn't want to abandon Naomi. If you are like me, you're probably listening to this story and you're asking yourself, what in the world would propel Ruth to do something crazy like this? Why would she do the unthinkable and stay? Here's what Ruth understood. When the world tells you to run at the first sign of trouble, Christ-centered friends remain loyal. More than comfort, more than security, more than easy, more than anything, Ruth desired to be loyal, even when things got hard. When all signs pointed towards leaving, Ruth stayed. How's that hitting you? Do you consider yourself a loyal friend? Even when it's inconvenient for your life, are you a friend that will stay by someone's side? When your friend makes a mistake that ruins every relationship in his life, will you be the outlier and be the friend that sticks around? When your friend's parents get a divorce and their whole life is falling apart and everyone is splitting up and their house is splitting up and everything is going out of control, will you be the friend that sticks in the mess and walks alongside your friend? When your friend does something embarrassing that causes them to fall down the social ladder at your school, will you be the friend that stays with them even if that means you fall too? Ruth understood what it meant to be loyal. And as you continue to read the Bible, you eventually see that Jesus was the perfect example of what it means to be loyal. Even when it cost Jesus everything, he remained loyal to you and I. John 15:13 says this, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. Jesus laid his life down on a cross for you and I because he loved us. Out of loyalty and love, Jesus died for us on a cross so that we could have a relationship with him forever. Jesus had every opportunity to turn away from us, to leave us. We were the ones that turned our backs on him, yet Jesus stayed. Because more than anything, Jesus wanted a relationship with you. Students, it's going to cost you something. However, being a Christ-centered friend that remains loyal is what we're called to be. Loyalty allows our friends to experience a love and hope only Jesus has to offer. Go be a Christ-centered friend that remains loyal.